Hi, guys. Welcome to Hapag-Lloyd Cruises and life aboard two of the finest cruise ships in the world. Wow, I think even from that very short video that I just wanted to show to start the session off, you can see why this is titled what it is. And as you saw at the end of the clip, the Berlitz Cruise Guide has actually rated the MS Europa 2 the best cruise ship in the world this year. And they've given the vessel a 5-star plus rating every year, each of the 5 years she has been on the water. Hapag-Lloyd Cruises actually has a fleet of 5 different ships, but 2 of them are specifically catered to the US market. Today, we're going to talk about those 2 ships, obviously. And to talk about the Europa 2, which I just gave you a really quick sneak peek of, I'd like to invite in my good friend, Alan Law. Alan is a partner at GLP, Worldwide Expeditions in Toronto, and GLP is a well-established and respected tour operator, booking loads of cruises, and Alan has had the opportunity to sail aboard the Europa 2 not too long ago. So I wanted to bring him on just to talk about kind of life on board. So Alan, thanks for joining me. Make sure you unmute yourself. There you go. How you doing today?
Good. How you doing, Dave?
Excellent, man. Thanks so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I think it's been about a year since I was on board the MS Europa 2. I guess
Great. Well,
time flies when you're in a pandemic, right?
You could say that. More recent than I've been aboard, but it's been a couple years now, maybe 2.5, 3 years. So you've seen a newer version than I. For those of you that don't know, Alan and I have known each other for quite some time. We get along, do business together, socially, we've traveled together. So I'm not going to beat around the bush with him. I want to address the elephant in the room right off the bat. For all intents and purposes, there is a ban on cruising in the US. And there's certainly a little bit of a stigma now around the cruising industry and this coronavirus pandemic. However, not only are you still promoting the cruise ship, you're actually booking it. I see your bookings coming through. So my questions are why, and more importantly, how?
Well, it's the same thing up here in Canada. We also have a ban on cruising. I think it's quite an unfair blanket ban, in my opinion, because we all know that all cruise lines aren't created equal, especially one like Hapag-Lloyd. So I guess why are we still promoting and how are we still booking? We all know the ban isn't going to last forever. There's a huge pent-up demand for travel. We're getting bookings now because people are still bullish that they'll be getting somewhere by spring or summer of next year. There's no doubt about that. It's going to look different, but people will travel. And I actually spoke about this on another panel before about destinations that have managed and contained COVID-19 well. Those will be the ones that are first to welcome visitors again. And I think that also applies to cruise lines, right? Because people still want to travel. They're just waiting for the right circumstances. And health and safety, that's definitely going to be a top priority when we get to cruise again. And that will definitely play a big part in which cruise line they choose to go with. And this is where I find comfort with Hapag-Lloyd after being on board. It's weird that this has become such an important marketing point these days, but one of the first things I noticed when I was on board the ship was how immaculately clean everything was. I mean, first off, it's a beautiful ship, absolutely stunning. And you've been on board. There's a stainless steel and glass. And the most amazing thing of that was there wasn't a single fingerprint anywhere. I mean, it's a weird thing to notice, but I have a 6-year-old at home and I'm used to seeing fingerprints and handprints like all over the place. But yeah, we're comfortable.
It's German, so they are meticulous.
And you know what? And that's definitely evident once you get on board of the detail that they go through. But like that being said, we're comfortable in promoting Hapag-Lloyd right now, despite the cruise ban, because I know that on board you can tell there's a lot of attention paid to cleanliness. One of my first personal experiences was with how detailed the cleaning was when I first got into my suite to unpack. So I'm in the suite, I'm getting ready to unpack. And of course, being a good Caribbean cruiser, I needed to find a place to put my Panama hat, of course, right? So I noticed there's a little nook above the set of cabinets, and I thought, oh, perfect, I'll just slide it right up there. Then I thought, actually, no, wait, I'm not going to put it up there. It's probably filthy. So I just put my fingers up there. Yeah, I just ran my fingers across just to check how dirty it was. And it was actually spotless, like not a speck of dust above the cabinets. I was like, wow, who cleans up there? Like, but that's a level of detail we're talking about here. And of course, I was on board before COVID-19 and their health and hygiene standards were already top notch. Of course, norovirus has always been a concern on cruise ships. So there's hand sanitizing stations for all the restaurants and common areas. One cool thing that I learned was that each cabin in public areas were fitted with an air exchange system that supplies fresh air and extracts the inside air and shoots it outside. So that's fantastic, right? So plenty of fresh air. You're not recirculating the air. Another thing too is even before COVID-19, they had the highest space to guest ratio of any cruise ship. So now even under the new COVID protocols, they're sailing at 60% capacity, which means even more physical space for physical distancing in the restaurants and the common areas. Tons of space. I'm not going to go into detail, about their protocols. I'm sure you guys have you've heard it all, right? Like the hotel, every hotel, cruise line, airline. But the bottom line is it's not just theatrics. They take it seriously. So I'm comfortable to get people on again as soon as possible in the post-COVID world once this ban is lifted. So we're making moves to make sure that we're ready to roll once this ban is off.
Great points. I mean, people are really stressing the social distancing and being out in the open. And as you mentioned, it does have the most space per passenger of any ship in the world. And at normal capacity, it's only 500 passengers. And now they're sailing with a max of 299. So that speaks to that. The other point that I would like to make just before we move off COVID, because I'm sure people are sick of hearing about it, but I had to ask you the question, is that most people don't realize, but the fourth deck is a hospital. It's actually a working hospital. It's one of the only cruise ships with a fully staffed hospital for anything that comes up on board. So they do take health of their passengers seriously. But let's move past that. You briefly mentioned the cabins or the suites, as we call them. Anyone that's spoken with me about the Europa 2 and Hapag-Lloyd, I often refer to it as a 6-star hotel that happens to float. You've been on far more cruise ships and boats than I, so maybe that's just in my head. How do the cabins on board compare to your other kind of top tier cruise ships out there?
I mean, yeah, I've been on a few cruises. I mean, from the big white mega ships with 5,000 other people to smaller expedition ships, to river cruising, to sailing, and even on some private yachts. But I always like to make a distinction between conventional sense of the word cruising, like on those big 5,000 passenger ships, and a smaller ship experience like with Hapag-Lloyd. Because whenever I think of those mainstream cruise ships, I think of the cartoon WALL-E, where civilization has to leave Earth on these big spaceships and they're moving around on these, those big automatic wheelchairs and just getting stuffed with food and, manufactured experiences. You know what I'm talking about, right? You know exactly.
Yep, of
like
course.
that everything, nothing's real. Everything's just, but anyways, no, Hapag-Lloyd is definitely not the conventional cruise experience at all. I mean, the Europa 2 only holds about 500 passengers, as you mentioned earlier. So you're absolutely right. It is a luxury boutique hotel that just happens to be floating. And I guess luxury means different things to different people. And I know you've been to your fair share of luxury properties, so you know what you're talking about, maybe, just a little bit, right? But yeah, back the suites on board. I think I had one of the entry-level suites when I was there, but wow, it was magnificent. I mean, the first thing I noticed was its sheer size, much bigger than most other cruise ships I've been on. I think they're about 375 square feet with a balcony, which is quite impressive for an entry-level cabin on a small ship. So all the suites are outside with balcony. I had a walk-in closet, king-size bed, a sitting area. The bathroom, it had a full-size tub with a separate glass shower, bigger than most hotel rooms in Europe, I would say, and definitely bigger than a lot of the condos being built right now in downtown Toronto. So they've thought of everything from all the storage in the walk-in closets to the fold-out vanity mirrors. Everything is exactly where you'd want it. You can tell a lot of thought was put into designing these suites. You also get an iPad, gives you all the information you need from the daily programs to dinner reservations to ordering room service. The mini bar gets restocked every day. I mentioned this earlier, but your cabin has its own independent ventilation system to circulate fresh air, so you're not sharing your neighbor's air because only the freshest of air for Hapag-Lloyd guests, right? But overall, very comfortable, very spacious, very well designed, absolutely flawless.
That'll do. I think at this point, I'm just going to play the longer video. I gave you a really little tease of a 30-second clip to start the session, but I'm going to show another video just so the attendees in this session get a real sense of what it's like on board the ship, and then we'll come back and chat about another aspect of the experience.
We set out at the first light. We lit up with the sunrise. Gets my heartbeat running wild when you're here by my side. And we'll dream out loud. Take our chance, take it now. We will go from this day on. Take this world and make it ours. You and I, all life long. We'll take this world from this day on. We can breathe in the moment. Open arms, we can own it. All these dreams we can run down. Feel it fall into place now. We will go from this day on. Take this world and make it ours. You and I, all life long. We'll take this world from this day on. From this day on. And we'll dream out loud. Take our chance, take it now.
Yeah, so that. Um, so you saw the suites. Some call them cabins. I think it's a disservice to them on the Europa too. As you correctly said, they're about 375 square feet with a private balcony. But the other thing that I just wanted to touch on is, I mean, you saw a brief showing of the F&B experience on board. Again, compared to other ships, and I'm not speaking about the 5,000 passenger ships. I mean, you're smaller that you would categorize in the same level as a Hapag-Lloyd ship. How would you rate the F&B experience overall?
Oh yeah, no, the F&B experience was definitely above and beyond. I mean, the food was fantastic and the service was phenomenal, and it is just just a step above everything else I've ever experienced. But at the risk of sounding cliche, every night was a culinary journey. I mean, top-notch fine dining every night. We never wanted to leave. But we spent a lot of time in the restaurants, and the tasting menus, from perfectly seared foie gras with shaved truffles to steak tartare prepared at tableside, to the perfect al dente pasta out on the deck. Everything was just flawless. I think, like, on average our group would spend about 2 hours or more at dinner because we were trying every dish and every bottle of wine, all in the name of product research, of course, right?
Of course. It's a dirty
but yeah,
job, but somebody has to do it, you know?
exactly. But the food was amazing. Some of the best food I've had, even compared to the finest restaurants on land. The beauty was that it was included every single night. At dinner, they do this thing. It was new to me, but maybe you guys know. So, you know how they serve like a sorbet to cleanse your palate between courses, but they would then pour champagne into the sorbet and then a shot of vodka. So let's say dinner was always a fun time. And Nicole, I saw you in the chat earlier, so you know what I'm talking about. So,
And
but yeah, other than dinner, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think one of the biggest points compared to a lot of other ships is we have 7 restaurants on board, all 5 of them fine dining, and there's no supplement, no upcharge. You just dine at anyone you want. And the other thing I like to point out is they only do 1 seating per night. So as you said, you could spend 2-3 hours at dinner and you're not rushed because they're not turning the tables over to seat anyone else. So once you make the reservation in that Italian restaurant, Serenissima, or in the French restaurant or the sushi place, that's your table for the night. Come when you want, eat as much as you want. You're not going to get a bill and you're not going to get hurried out. And that's just such a foreign concept to most Americans and especially most cruise goers. But it's such a luxury, and that's luxury to some people.
Yeah, and even like you said, there's so many there's so many dining choices. The sailing we were on was pretty well full, but none of the restaurants ever felt crowded. There was always space. You weren't kind of right next to the table beside you. It was very comfortable. The service was not intrusive. Like it was attentive but not intrusive.
Right.
Yeah, but I guess other than dinner, all the meals were fantastic as well. From fresh baked pastries at breakfast to perfect pizza by the pool. All
Waffle hour?
excellent. Yes, the waffles.
They do
Yes.
waffle hour on the deck by the pool every day.
Definitely.
You just smell it in your suite.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
like, "Ooh, I need waffles."
The whole ship, you can smell it. You just follow your nose and it takes you right to the waffles.
It's outrageous. And in addition to the food, there are 6 bars on board as well. They have the largest gin collection of any ship on the sea. So they do gin tastings. I didn't know I liked gin until I sailed on the Europa too. They have a music club, a jazz club on board, and as well as a theater for entertainment. So for entertainment, food and beverage, most space, I really don't think there's anything else out there if that's what you're looking for on the sea. Closing thought, because then we're going to move on, because I do want to introduce the new ship as well.
Yes.
But if you have a closing thought, please go for it.
I was going to mention the bars, but you talked about it. They're absolutely fantastic. And it's very different from the big ships where they boast their robots that mix drinks. Well, you have a real bartender that's making you a fresh mojito, right? We can have a proper bourbon old fashioned. But overall, the ship, the experience, solid, unparalleled experience. You can't beat it. It's worth every penny, and you'll understand what it's worth once you're on board.
And I swear, people, I did not pay him to say any of this. Alan, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, and appreciate your insight. Enjoy the rest of RepFest, buddy, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you, Dave.
Cool. Thanks. And now I am pleased to introduce you to the newest member of the Hapag-Lloyd fleet. It's the incredible Hanseatic Inspiration. It's a state-of-the-art expedition ship who made her maiden voyage just last year. Now, the video I'm going to show you, it is narrated by the captain of the ship, so it's very passionate. It is in German because that's his native tongue, although he's fluent in English. It was filmed in German. There are subtitles, but I do want to show it because it just really encapsulates the spirit of the Hanseatic Inspiration, and I want you to get that. So please just sit back and enjoy.
Die blaue Stunde ist mit der schönste Moment auf See, wenn wir die langen Dämmerungsphasen haben. Und ich genieße das total, wenn das Schiff wirklich den ganzen Tag von morgens bis späten Abend auf See ist. Als Kapitän liebe ich die Momente, mit meiner Besatzung neue Wege auf noch unbekannten Pfaden zu finden und unseren Gästen einen unberührten Blick zu ermöglichen. Selbstverständlich mit den höchsten Sicherheitsstandards, absoluten Respekt vor der Natur, der höchsten Eisklasse und einer perfekten Kombination aus viel Erfahrung, aber auch Intuition. Wir brauchen für unsere Expeditionsreisen, die wir machen, ein wendiges kleines Schiff. Da müssen wir ständig neu entscheiden, was wir machen. Wenn das Eis plötzlich den Fjord versperrt, dann suchen wir sofort einen anderen Platz. Und so entdecken wir auch ständig neue Routen. Und das gilt nur mit Flexibilität. Mein Ziel war immer, in die Antarktis zu kommen. Und das ist mit Hapag-Lloyd Cruises dann möglich gewesen. Und plötzlich war ich an diesen schützenswerten Orten, wo ich vorher nur von gelesen habe. Und das ist jetzt 15 Jahre her und die Faszination ist nicht gewichen. Und man muss diesen Spirit haben, Expeditionen zu lieben und die Natur zu lieben.
Diese Weite und das Unberührte lassen einen immer voller Ehrfurcht zurück. Es gibt die tollsten Landschaften der Welt, wo man mit einem Expeditionsschiff hinkommt. Aber man bringt Menschen in diese Landschaften. Und das ist, glaube ich, die größte Faszination. Mit verschiedenen Experten aus unterschiedlichen Fachgebieten an Bord, dem Hanseatrium und der Ocean Academy, wollen wir, dass das Erlebte zum Lehrmeister wird. Jedes Erlebnis wird noch intensiver, je mehr wir darüber wissen und verstehen. Ich glaube, wir haben aus den Jahren der Expedition gelernt und es umgesetzt in diesem neuen Schiff.
Wenn die Gäste strahlend an dir vorbeiziehen, das ist ein perfekter Tag. Und eine Expedition ist nur dann vollständig, wenn es mit allen Sinnen genossen werden kann und endet nicht, wenn man von den Zodiacs zurückkehrt. Unser Ziel ist es, dem Gast auch kulinarisch eine Horizonterweiterung zu bieten. Und das natürlich mit dem 5-Sterne-Niveau. Das muss dann schon sein, wenn schon, denn schon. So können die Gäste frei wählen, ob sie im Hauptrestaurant, im Liederrestaurant mit Innen- und Außenplätzen oder im Spezialitätenrestaurant essen möchten. Jedes noch so kleine Detail verstärkt das Erleben der Natur. Angefangen bei Farben, Formen und Licht in den Kabinen, bis hin zur Verwendung von natürlichen Materialien. Auch bei unserem Oceanspa und im Fitnessbereich haben wir uns die Natur als Vorbild genommen, um unsere Gäste in den Einklang mit sich selbst zu bringen. Das Thema Inspired by Nature zieht sich wie ein roter Faden durch alle Bereiche des Schiffes.
Ich heiße Axel Engeldrum und bin Kapitän.
Ich heiße Matthias Meyer und bin Expeditionsdirektor.
Ich bin Doris Adler, Hotelmanagerin auf den Expeditionsschiffen von Hapag-Lloyd Cruises.
And that is the Hanseatic Inspiration. Absolutely stunning, incredible, state-of-the-art, brand new expedition ship. Now, because the Inspiration made her maiden voyage just about 13 months ago, I've unfortunately not had the opportunity to be aboard. So I wanted to welcome in someone who has, someone I've known longer than Alan. I've literally known him my whole life because he is my father, Henry Cartagena. Welcome, Henry.
Soll ich auf Deutsch sprechen oder Englisch? Oh, I'm only kidding.
Okay. So, as I prefaced, you have been aboard this incredible new ship. Can you just speak about the overall onboard experience for a moment?
Yeah, I think the thing that got me the most, and actually we should get Alan back because he probably did a better job than anybody on the planet could do selling Hapag-Lloyd. but to answer your question, I think what I found the most interesting and the greatest asset of the ship, in addition to what Alan said, what he said about Europa 2 is also true with the Inspiration. But the amount of space, the public space per passenger is absolutely incredible. The ship only holds 200 and maximum 230. And even if the ship is full, I can promise you, you can find a public place to sit down and you can literally hide from people. You could be on the ship for 2 weeks, sit in a public place every day, and never see every passenger, which I think is absolutely incredible. And the other feature was the interactive Ocean Economy is something I've never experienced before. I didn't think I would find it interesting. However, I went in there on 2 occasions. I was on a shakedown cruise, so I was only on the ship for 3 days just to get the kinks out of it. But the Academy was spectacular. There's a scientist in there, and there's lots of little interactive pieces there that you can play with on your own to get answers to all the questions you may have that pertain to the cruise. And then there's a scientist there who would actually explain it to you. It was absolutely wonderful.
That's next level stuff. And clearly you were impressed in this couple of days because subsequently you booked a 3-week cruise to head to Antarctica, which obviously has been postponed, but you'll be going next year?
Yes, I was supposed to go to Antarctica in January of 2021. It was canceled, so I've rebooked for the following year. And unfortunately, with COVID, it's a little different. But if you don't book an Antarctica cruise 12 to 18 months in advance, you get locked out because the ship is so small. As you said earlier, 230 passengers on the ship. However, for Antarctica, they reduce it down to 199. And you've got a crew of 160, so it's almost a 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's just service at its finest. There were a couple questions that came in, and we are getting short on time. So they were asking about itineraries. One of the beautiful parts about Hapag-Lloyd cruises is they don't really repeat the same itinerary twice. It's not like a lot of other cruise ships that are based in the Mediterranean or the South Pacific. So the ocean liner, which was the first ship we discussed, the Europa 2, it actually pretty much circumnavigates the entire globe over the course of 18 months. So if you have clients that specifically want to do a cruise in South America or Australia or the Mediterranean, you can find one over the course of a year and a half. And then with the new expedition ship, as Henry just mentioned, obviously Antarctica is the big draw, but there's also Amazon cruises. One that sold out way in advance is the Great Lakes cruise. So it goes from Toronto to Chicago through all 5 Great Lakes over the course of 2 weeks and then back. It also does the Northwest Passage. So there's a lot of unique itineraries. And again, they don't repeat twice.
Yeah, I was going to add, other than Antarctica and a couple of other places, you could literally book a passenger to do a 200-day cruise, if it wasn't during that period with Antarctica, because the ship just keeps moving.
And especially on the Europa too, we do have quite a few passengers who will book back-to-back cruises or 3 in a row because of that. And they get to visit tons of different places in the comfort of a 6-star hotel that happens to float. Do you have a closing thought before I have a send-off video about Antarctica?
No, I think if safety is the other issue. It's the highest class ice ship in the world. And being small, it can get into areas in Antarctica, which I'm interested in, that allow you to get into portions of Antarctica that the other ships just can't get into.
Great. Well, I'm going to end with a short clip on Antarctica, and then I hope to see you all over at the Every Mother Counts session that's backing up to this. Thank you so much, Henry. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.